Episode 1, The Pony Car Revolution. Hey everyone, welcome to Chrome and Gasoline, the show where classic sheet metal, roaring engines, and great stories all meet. I'm your host Alex, and today we're kicking off a special mini-series all about the very first Ford Mustangs. The 1964 and a half to 1966 cars that started it all. If you've ever seen one of those early Mustangs cruising by, long hood, short rear deck, that unmistakable galloping horse badge, you know they're more than just cars. They're symbols of a moment in time. To understand why the Mustang hit so hard, we've got to rewind to the early 1960s. American roads were filled with big, heavy sedans. Meanwhile, a new generation was coming of age. Baby boomers, college kids, young professionals. They wanted something different, something stylish, affordable, and fun. A car that felt like theirs, not their parents'. Inside Ford, one executive in particular understood that craving. Lee Iacocca. He pushed hard for a new kind of car. Sporty, compact, with room for four, and priced so young buyers could actually afford it. That idea became the Mustang. On April 17, 1964, at the New York World's Fair, Ford pulled the covers off the Mustang, and the crowd went wild. The car looked like nothing else in its price range. Sharp lines, bucket seats, floor shifter. It made you want to jump in and drive straight out of the showroom. Those very first cars are often called the 1964 and a half Mustangs. Officially, they were sold as 1965 models, but early production cars had some quirks. Details like a generator instead of an alternator, and engine options like the 260 cubic inch V8 that would soon be replaced by the now famous 289 enthusiasts use that 64 and a half nickname to mark those first off-the-line originals. Ford didn't just rely on a good design, they backed it with one of the most aggressive marketing campaigns in automotive history. The Mustang showed up in TV commercials, magazine spreads, and huge dealer displays. People lined up for test drives. Ford dealers reportedly sold hundreds of thousands in the first year. The Mustang didn't just join the market, it redefined it. Pretty soon, the industry had a new phrase, the pony car. A small, stylish, affordable coupe with a long hood and short deck, the Mustang created an entire segment, and competitors rushed to catch up. So in just a few months, the Mustang went from a risky idea inside Ford to a full-blown cultural phenomenon. It was the right car, at the right time, with exactly the right image. That's where our journey begins, with the birth of the pony car revolution. In our next episode, we're going to pop the hood and look closer at what made those early Mustangs so special, the styling, the body styles, and the engines that gave them their personality. Thanks for listening to Chrome and Gasoline. I'm Alex. If you love classic cars, stick around. The story of the 64 and a half to 66 Mustang is just getting started. Episode 2. Style, Options, and Engineering. Welcome back to Chrome and Gasoline. I'm your host, Alex, and this is Episode 2 of our deep dive into the 1964 and a half to 1966 Ford Mustang. Last time, we talked about how the Mustang burst onto the scene. Today, we're getting closer. Looking at its design, options, and what it was like to actually drive one. Picture that early Mustang from the side. The designers leaned into what became its trademark, a long hood and short rear deck. It's a simple idea, but it gives the car this powerful, forward-leaning stance, like it's ready to sprint even when it's parked. Right from the start, Ford offered different body styles to fit different personalities. There was the hardtop coupe, the most common, perfect for daily driving. Then the convertible, for anyone who wanted top-down cruising and a bit of drama. And starting in 1965, the fastback joined the lineup with that sloping rear roof that screamed performance. Let's step inside for a minute. Slide into the driver's seat of a mid-60s Mustang and you're greeted by a simple, sporty dashboard, round gauges, a 3-spoke steering wheel, and if you were lucky, a console running between the front seats. Some cars got the famous pony interior, with embossed running horses on the seatbacks and extra chrome trim. It made the cabin feel a little more special, a little more upscale under the hood. Ford offered engines for just about everyone. At the entry level, you had the inline sixes, economical and easygoing. For those who wanted more excitement, there were the small block V8s, including the 289, which quickly became a favorite. That V8 sound is a huge part of the Mustang experience. Not everyone knew or cared about horsepower numbers, but they understood how it felt when you pressed the pedal and the car came alive. Beyond engines, the options list was huge. Buyers could add power steering, upgraded radios, styled steel wheels, and the GT package, with fog lamps, dual exhaust, stripes, and special badging. Ford's strategy was simple: let people build a Mustang that fit their personality and budget. On the road, those early Mustangs weren't razor-sharp race cars, but they were light, responsive, and fun compared to many big American sedans of the time. You felt connected to the car. The steering, the noise, even the slight body roll in corners. It all reminded you that you were driving something with character. So, from the outside lines to the interior choices and engine options, the early Mustang was all about giving drivers exactly what they wanted: style, sound, and just the right amount of performance. In our next episode, we're going to zoom out and look at how the Mustang swept into pop culture and performance, from everyday streets to racetracks, and into the imagination of a whole generation. This is Chrome and Gasoline. I'm Alex. Thanks for riding along, Paul, and I'll see you in Episode 3. Episode 3, Pop Culture and Performance. You're listening to Chrome and Gasoline. I'm Alex, and this is Episode 3 of our journey through the first-generation Ford Mustang from 1964 and a half to 1966. We've talked about how it was born and what made it tick. Now, let's explore how it became a cultural and performance icon. By the mid-1960s, the Mustang was everywhere. It wasn't just a car, it was a statement. In TV ads, Ford sold a lifestyle. Young people laughing, music playing, a Mustang parked right at the center of the party. It said, "This is freedom. This is you." Think about a high school parking lot in 1966. Among all the sedans and wagons, there's one bright red Mustang coupe. It doesn't just blend in. It owns the scene. That's the kind of presence the Mustang had. Of course, image is one thing. Performance is another. Ford knew that if the Mustang was going to be taken seriously, it needed real muscle behind the style. With higher output versions of the 289 V8 and packages like the GT, the Mustang started showing up at local drag strips and road courses, proving it wasn't just a pretty face. Racing and performance gave the Mustang credibility. Enthusiasts saw it as a platform they could modify, tune, and push to its limits. And even if most Mustangs never saw a track, their owners felt connected to that performance image. At the same time, the car slipped into everyday life. You'd see Mustangs in driveways, at the beach, lined up outside diners, music from the radio spilling out of open windows, friends piling in for a late-night cruise. The car fit perfectly into the soundtrack of the era. Imagine this. It's a warm summer evening in 1965. A young driver turns the key, the V8 rumbles to life, and the Mustang rolls out onto a two-lane road. The sun's going down, the sky is pink and gold, and the whole world feels wide open. That feeling, possibility, independence, youth, is a huge part of why the early Mustang became a symbol, not just a machine. Over time, those 1964 and a half to 1966 Mustangs laid the groundwork for a fan community that still thrives today. Car clubs, meetups, online groups. People gather to celebrate these early cars, trade stories, and keep the legend alive. From TV screens to racetracks to Main Street on a Friday night, the early Mustang captured the spirit of its era, and that spirit hasn't really faded. In our final episode, we'll bring things into the present, what it's like to restore, own, and drive a 64 and a half to 66 Mustang today, and why these cars still mean so much to so many people. I'm Alex, and this is Chrome and Gasoline. Stick around. Episode 4 is coming up next. Episode 4, Restoring the Legend. Welcome back to Chrome and Gasoline. I'm your host, Alex, and this is the final episode of our mini-series on the 1964 and a half to 1966 Ford Mustang. We've covered its birth, its design, and its cultural impact. Now, Let's talk about what it's like to live with one of these cars today. For many enthusiasts, owning an early Mustang isn't just about transportation. It's about preserving a piece of history. Those familiar lines and that galloping horse badge can instantly transport you back to the mid-60s, even if you weren't alive then. But before you can enjoy the dream, there's often some work involved. A classic Mustang project usually starts with the hunt, finding a car that's solid enough to save. Rust is a big concern. Floors, frames, and lower body panels all need careful inspection. Some owners aim for a factory-correct restoration, tracking down the right paint codes, interior trim, and period-correct parts to make the car look exactly as it did when it left the showroom. Others take a different route, the Restomod approach. They keep the classic look, but add modern touches, better brakes, improved suspension, electronic ignition, maybe even air conditioning and updated lighting. Done right, it respects the spirit of the original while making the car easier to live with on modern roads. Either way, there's something deeply satisfying about bringing one of these cars back to life. Watching fresh paint go on, hearing the engine fire up after a rebuild, it's a connection to the people who designed, built, and first drove these cars decades ago. Now, what's it like to actually drive one in the 21st century? Compared to modern cars, a 64.5 to 66 Mustang feels raw and honest. The steering can be lighter or heavier depending on the setup, the brakes require more attention, and there's more wind and road noise. But that's part of the charm. You feel the engine, the road, and your own inputs in a way that's often muted in newer vehicles. Picture a Saturday morning. The garage door opens, sunlight hits fresh chrome, and a restored 66 Mustang rolls out. The owner backs into the driveway, lets the engine warm up, then heads to a cars and coffee meet. Along the way, people turn their heads, smile, wave. At the show, strangers strike up conversations, share stories, and maybe reminisce about the Mustang they or their parents once had. Moments like that remind us why these cars endure. They're not just objects, they're memory machines. As for the market, well-restored early Mustangs have a steady place in the classic car world. They're iconic, recognizable, and supported by a huge parts and enthusiast network. That makes them appealing both to seasoned collectors and to younger fans who want their first classic. So what have we seen over this series? A bold idea at Ford that became the 1964.5 Mustang. A design that defined the pony car look, a cultural wave that carried the Mustang into music, movies, and everyday life. And finally, a legacy that still lives in garages, on highways, and at car shows all over the world. The 1964.5 to 66 Mustang isn't just the start of a famous model line, it's a reminder that the right car, at the right time, can capture the imagination of millions and hold on to it for generations. Thank you for joining me for this mini-series of Chrome and Gasoline. If you enjoyed this ride, share the show with a fellow car lover, leave a review, and let us know which classic you'd like to explore next. Until next time, keep the revs up and the stories rolling. I'm Alex, and this has been Chrome and Gasoline.